Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's another lovely week to have you guys back here. And you can see that I'm so excited because our little community is growing. God bless the day that I decided to take YouTube really seriously. Thank you guys so much for all the engagement, for the likes, for the comments, for the video recommendations. Thank you so much for the shares. But again, report that reaches me says, majority of you that watch my videos are not subscribed. Please, if you're watching this, if you can hear the sound of my voice right now, click that subscribe button. You know you can see it. Click it now. Thank you, because it helps me grow. This is how you can support me to keep making these videos. Thank you again so much for engaging. My name is Oleri Odiodio if you are meeting me for the very first time. And on this channel, I talk about style for women in leadership. So how women in leadership can harness the power of personal style to impact their leadership presence. I also talk about leadership for women. So I share tips and strategies to help women enhance their leadership prowess. And then I also talk about self-improvement. So if you're in any way interested in any of these three topics, do consider subscribing. Trust me, you'll find so much value here because I share so much value. I'm a transformational style coach as well as personal brand expert. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I'll link my Instagram in the description box below. So let's jump right into today's video. I'm going to be teaching you how to dress if you have narrow hips. So if you have narrow hips is what we refer to as the inverted triangle body type. Now I always talk about the nuances that are within these body types. So mostly if you have narrow hips, then you find that you have broader shoulders. So you mostly fall under the inverted triangle body type. And a disclaimer here, there's nothing wrong with this body type. Society has conditioned us to believe that there's a particular standard of beauty that everybody must attain, everybody must aspire to. So everybody must become an hourglass. The truth is, every single body type was intentionally designed by God, because imagine if we all had the same body type and we all wore the same things. Where's the fun in that? Where's the diversity in that? Where's the identity, the uniqueness in that? So we all have different body types for a reason, because variety is the spice of life. So we all have our different body types because there's something that would look good on this body type that wouldn't look good on this body type. And there's something that would look good on this body type that wouldn't look good on this body type. So that's why we all have our different body types. So it's on you to embrace your body. I know how difficult it is. I myself, I am a rectangle. So I know how difficult it is to truly develop into loving your body, despite it not being what society considers beautiful or acceptable. But it's a journey and you have to love the process. Love your body, no matter what shape you are. Love your body, because without your body, you won't be here. So your body deserves a bit of gratitude and a bit of love. So I'm going to be jumping into today's video because, again, the reason why you struggle to love your body is because you haven't found how to dress your body type. And the inverted triangle body type can be one of the most challenging to dress. And that's why I'm treating this topic today. So let's jump right into the video. I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things to avoid if you have narrow hips. You know, when I have my board here, I mean business. So when it comes to having narrow hips, the first thing you want to consider is balance. So you want to avoid trying to change. You want to look more at balancing. What do I mean? So let's just draw a triangle just for reference. So the mistake that some people make is they try to change. So this is a triangle, right? And this is an hourglass, for example. I suck at drawing, please don't judge me. So a lot of inverted triangles, a lot of people with narrow hips have been conditioned to try to alter this figure to get this. But you would not achieve success if you try to alter this to become this, because you can never alter this to become this. What you want to do is think of balance. So instead of thinking to change, they tell you things like, wear a belt to try and make your waist look smaller. Am I completely against belts? No, but I'm just saying you should think more in terms of balance rather than alteration. So instead of introducing a belt to mimic or to replicate the hourglass, what you want to do is balance your figure, balance your body, because style is all about balance. You want to create balance, because once you create balance within your frame, you create harmony within your frame. And that's what you want to do. So the first thing you want to do is avoid the need to alter. Instead, think of balance. What do I mean? So this is an inverted triangle, right? This is your top. This is your bottom. So instead of wearing, say, a leggings, You want to think of what will balance my top with my bottom. That's what you want to do. So you want to think of what will give me volume here. What will give me the most volume here? So let's say you have something like pants, a pair of tailored pants that really emphasizes your waistline, but instead of hugging your hips, instead of being tight fitted to your hips like the leggings would, it just falls. So we have more balance here. So you want to think balance rather than alter. You do not want to alter, you want to balance. So to dress your narrow hips, you want to think of how can I balance the bottom with the top. So think volume at the bottom, think pockets. So things that have pockets rather than things that are just form-fitting and straight. So anything that gives you volume on the lower part is what you want. Anything that gives you volume around your hips. And that's why people recommend peplum. I personally have a bias towards peplum because I personally don't like peplum tops. But yes, it's a mindset thing. So you want to get rid of the need to alter. You want to avoid trying to alter your figure. Instead, you want to think of how can I balance my proportions? Because again, every body type is different. And the idea of dressing for your body type is simply balancing the proportions within your frame. Even an hourglass needs in some way, shape or form to balance the proportions within their frame. So you need to balance your proportions within your frame. You need to balance the broader shoulders you have with the narrow hips that you have. It's not about alteration. So the second thing to avoid if you have narrow hips is clothes without form or structure. Garments that do not have any form or structure are garments that you should avoid if you have narrow hips. Now, because you have narrow hips, you would mostly have broader shoulders. So for your hips to be narrow, we have to compare it with something, right? So for your hips to be narrow, it means you have broader shoulders. And contrary to what people say, contrary to what stylists, personal stylists, style experts say, that you want to juxtapose that. If you have maybe broad shoulders, instead of wearing padded, structured blazers, you want to wear something soft. I beg to differ. If you have broad, stronger shoulders, you want to really play in on that. You want to dial in on that. You don't want to accentuate in the sense of adding volume, but you want to enhance that. So if you have broad shoulders, you want to put on a pair of blazers that has a form of structure to them. So you want to do structure. I know we're talking of hips, but to balance the hips, which was our first point, you want to think of balancing. So what you put on even on the upper part of your body also matters. So you want to think structure over soft. So think fabrics that have some form of sturdiness to them, that have some form of solidness to them. So instead of thinking soft fabrics, maybe like lace, think something that has structure, something that has some form of density to it, some sturdiness to it. Because when you put on things that are sturdy, imagine you put on a pair of pants that are tailored made, that are sturdy, as opposed to wearing leggings. So the quality of these two fabrics, they are going to be different. So you want to think of putting structure into your look, because when you put structure into your look, it just defines your outfit, defines your body more than something that just is flimsy or something that doesn't have any structure to it. So one mistake that I find people with narrow hips make is they try to wear soft clothing because they think of juxtaposition more than accentuating. No, you want to accentuate. Your broad shoulders is actually a gift because clothes can actually sit better on you. Structured clothing can sit better. They can sit perfectly, comfortably on your broad shoulders. So you want to think in that term, because when you wear structured clothing, it doesn't emphasize the narrowness of your hips as opposed to when you wear flimsy or soft clothing. The third thing you want to avoid if you have narrow hips is form-fitting clothing for your bottoms. Now, people just say avoid form-fitting clothing. It's not true. You want to avoid form-fitting clothing for your bottoms. And again, there is a way to do form-fitting clothing. Instead of wearing just a bodycon dress, you can wear something that has some form of ruching on the side. I'm going to put up images so you can see what I'm talking about. So some form of ruching on the side. So when it has some form of ruch, especially on the side, it gives the idea of like a smaller waist in comparison to narrow hips. So that is one way that you can play into form-fitting clothing. Of course, it has to be done tastefully. There has to be other things that you consider. So maybe it has to be a V-neck. So it has to be something that kind of de-emphasizes your upper part of the body, and so it doesn't draw attention to the lower part. But if this seems too complex, I would just say avoid form-fitting clothing, especially on the lower part. So previously I gave an example with leggings. So instead of leggings, you want to do tailored pants. Tailored pants that just skim the hips, not hug the hips. So you want to do some form of tailored pants that emphasize the waist, skim the hips, not hug the hips, and then just fall freely, as opposed to wearing pencil jeans or straight skirts or leggings, right? So avoid form-fitting clothing, especially for your bottom if you have narrow hips. If you have narrow hips, I really hope you found this video really helpful. Tell me in the comments which of these points you found the most helpful. And if there are other videos you'd love me to touch, other videos you'd love to see from me, please do not hesitate to leave recommendations for me in the comments. I love seeing your comments. I love seeing your recommendations. I'll see you again next week. Stay fabulous.